Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Vince Coglianese Show here on WMAL. I'm Derek Hunter, sitting in for Vince the next 2 days, and they got somebody else on Friday. I don't know who, but I'm sure they'll be great. I'm a podcaster. You can find me at, if you just search Derek Hunter Podcast, you can find me. I'm a senior columnist at Town Hall, columnist at The Hill, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. But the podcast is where the fun is had. I want to shift gears now to just show you how desperate Democrats are. Because we got to, like I say, we got to, every once in a while, there needs to be some discipline in our trench, but our enemy is in the other trench. We shouldn't lose sight of that. Fox News reporting, and this is, of course, typical. They don't want you to, the Democrats, they always talk about transparency. You listen to whatever it is they say they're doing. They're doing the exact opposite. Whatever it is they're accusing Republicans of doing is what they actually do. The fascism. That's fascism. We must do everything we can to make sure that the Republicans don't win this election. And they're never talking about, and vote and win the election. It's they must do everything they can to cheat. Voting is sacrosanct. We need a piece of legislation that protects the right to vote. Hey, all right, yeah, well, how about a piece of legislation that protects the right to vote and, something crazy like, I don't know, protecting the integrity of the vote? Something is not fingerprints, DNA, retina scans, gait assessment. No, something like, I don't know, reaching in your pocket and pulling out a photo ID, a state-issued photo ID. No, we can't do that. Can't do that. That's absurd. Why? How? Well, because it disenfranchises black people. How? It just does. So you're saying black people can't get photo ID? No, that's not what we're saying. Then what are you saying? It disenfranchises black people. How? Don't. If you have to ask, you just don't know. That's how you know you got these people. Well, you just don't get it. No, we don't get it. Find me a black person without a photo ID. Hunt down the 10 people in the country who can't get their hands on a photo ID, right? Hunt those people down. Track them down. And get them photo IDs. And you would solve the problem and make their lives immeasurably better. At a minimum, they'd be able to get hammered now, legally. Open a bank account, get a job, travel, do all those sorts of things that we privileged few who can manage to navigate the complicated system that we all navigate when we're 16 years old, get a photo ID from the state. Damn it, I love that. We must guarantee the right to vote. All right, well, how about we guarantee the integrity of that vote? Just no. Besides, voter fraud is so rare. Well, that's great then. We can then, I don't know, legislate against it. And you wouldn't really have any problem with that, right? I love how they say, DeSantis was, not to bring this back to DeSantis, but DeSantis was just on, and I played it the other day on the podcast. Ron DeSantis was interviewed or debated a reporter from NBC. Right? It was that female reporter who honestly recounted how being around, John Fetterman, he couldn't do small talk. And everybody on the left, including a whole bunch of her colleagues at NBC News, were like, no, I've interviewed him and he was perfectly fine. I don't know what she's talking about. She's like, no, you can't really engage in small talk because he can't understand people. No, I don't remember that. She's crazy. She must have interviewed a different person. And then you come to find out they were all lying. They were all lying. He was just protecting. They circle the wagons. They protect their own. Her name was Dasha Burns. It's just how the left operates. They hide things. They lie. They cheat. They steal. They whatever. No, we can't have voter integrity. Voter fraud doesn't happen. Okay. Late-term abortion, that interview with DeSantis. Late-term abortion doesn't happen at all. It's so rare. But wait a second. It's rare or it doesn't happen at all. It literally cannot be both. All right? She started citing Planned Parenthood statistics, which, of course, not necessarily the moneyed industry, the moneyed entity in the industry. And you start citing their statistics and say, there's only 1.3% of abortions are in the last month or whatever it was she said. I'm like, okay, that's not none. That's not none. Is there a certain number of murders? You just kind of go, meh. That's just what happens. Like shrinkage. If you've ever worked retail, everybody knows what shrinkage is. If you've ever worked in retail and you had to, like, I worked in many record stores when I was younger and record stores existed. And you'd have to stay late to do the inventory like every 6 months because they wanted to see how much stuff was being ripped off. And it was the worst. You run around with these little zap guns and you're hitting every barcode and everything in the store. And there's just yellow tags everywhere. And you wanted to know what the shrinkage is. Well, is there a certain number of human shrinkage where you go, it's just a rounding error? Yeah, there's a few hundred murders every year that we can just kind of live past. No, it's either you want zero or you want, or you're cool with however many. You don't get to say that never happens. It's very rare. No. It's just like when they talk about the trans issue. I don't know why the Republicans are passing all these laws against children and surgery on children and genital mutilation of children. Nobody's out there mutilating the genitals of children. Well, then what's the problem with the legislation? If I introduced a bill to outlaw unicorns, would you stand up and give an impassioned speech about how dare I and who do I think I am outlawing unicorns? Or would you just look at me going, you're really going to... There are no unicorns. You know this, right? All right, go ahead. Hold your hearings or go ahead. Have your vote. Whatever it is. I'll vote for it because why not? We'll all ban unicorns together. And you just kind of pat me on the head and go about your business. But these leftists, no. When it comes to things they tell you, they insist they're not happening. It doesn't happen. And then why do you care? Hey, voter fraud doesn't happen anyway. All right, good. Then protecting against it is just innocuous, all right? There's a pretty good chance you're not going to be exposed to the flu. You still get a flu shot, right? Just pay attention to what they do. What they say and what they do are usually wildly different. Anyway, back to this Fox story and a very transparent government that wanted us to know what was going on by trying to hide everything that our government was doing. Here, in the interest of transparency, here's this report from the government. Really? Yes, I have right here this report. It looks like somebody had a Sharpie that sort of broke on that piece of paper. It's all just blacked out. No, I mean, we're protecting sources and methods. Really? You got 15 paragraphs front and back of sources and methods in one document, and the only thing that's not classified is the date? And you're telling me that you're interested in transparency? Okay, sure, right. Well, that mentality strikes again. The Fox News reports, the House Select Committee that investigated the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021, failed to adequately preserve documents, data, and video depositions, including communications it had with the Biden White House that are still missing, according to the Republican lawmaker overseeing the GOP investigation into the committee's work. See, the committee, we have nothing to hide. Jamie Raskin up there with his cool little bandana. We're just about transparency. We must get to the bottom of this. We want the world to see what we're doing behind closed doors. But nobody ever said in the press. That seems a little bit weird. You sat down, you talked to, Jared and Ivanka for 17 hours, and we've seen 12 seconds in a montage that your Hollywood producer friend that you hired at taxpayer expense put together. Is there any way we could maybe get that whole deposition? Or we just kind of see... I love the excuses. The excuses write themselves. Well, we're the government, so we do things on the cheap. And so we use actual VHS cassettes. And we stored them right next to the junkyard. And when you know it, we stored them right next to the giant magnet that throws around the cars. Sorry, we did. We still have the 17 seconds, though, completely out of context. And since we are trustworthy Democrats, quote Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff, you can believe us when we tell you that everything else, the other 16 hours, and I'm trying to do the math here, 43 seconds that we have was just chit-chat. It's just garbage. We were mostly talking about sandwiches, and the only thing that matters was that 17 seconds. So don't worry, you got it. The now disbanded J6 committee, which was run by Democrats and included only 2 GOP members, nominal GOP members, has also failed to provide any evidence that it looked into Capitol Hill security failures on the day of the riot. Representative Barry Loudermilk, Republican of Georgia, chairman of the subcommittee on oversight for the Committee on House Appropriations, told Fox News Digital. Loudermilk said his staff has had difficulty gathering all the information it needs to investigate Representative Benny Thompson's handling of the J6 investigation. Shocking. With a name like Benny. And I'm sorry. It's just a matter of personal privilege. If your name is Benjamin or whatever, Bernard, and you're going by Benny after the age of 12, there's something wrong with you. Just like if your name is Joseph and you want to be Joey till, I don't know, you're out of college or college age or something. At a certain point you become Joe, don't you? You don't become Joey. You're not in Friends. Anyway, quote, part of our task as this oversight subcommittee is to actually address the security failures, look into how it happened. How were these folks able to get into the Capitol, Loudermilk said. He said the documents they obtained came over in boxes and were completely unorganized. Quote, nothing was indexed. There was no table of contents index. Usually when you conduct this level of investigation, you use a database system, and everything is digitized, indexed. We got nothing like that. We got raw data, he said. So it took us a long time to go through it. And one thing I started realizing is we don't have anything much at all from the blue team, end quote. Because Democrats don't give a damn. They never did. It was about the cameras. It was about the show. They should subpoena Liz Cheney's rear end. She's in the area, still teaching college. Get her up there. Get her under oath and find out what the hell happened. Find out, because you're not going to, Benny Thompson isn't going to do there. He's a member for life. Adam Kinzinger will just cry through the whole thing, so there's no point in getting him under oath. Get Liz Cheney up there. She's so proud of the work that she did over there. Maybe she can explain why it is that it's such an unuser-friendly mess. Reminds me, actually, of the way Hillary Clinton turned over her emails. The media never really focused on this, but you remember, they turned over Hillary's emails. How'd they do it? They turned it over on a flash drive. Now, did they digitally save all of her emails from her server onto that flash drive? No, they didn't. They digitally saved them all as one gigantic PDF, 30,000 emails as one gigantic PDF. Now, why would you do that? Because you wanted to make it as difficult as possible to go through for anybody who was inclined to go through them. They wanted to make it impossible to follow a thread of conversation, a chain of conversation. They wanted to make sure you couldn't do keyword searches. It was just one giant thing. So here we go. We have complied with this. Deleted 33,000 of them in the interest of transparency because it was all about yoga pants and how Bill just can't keep his hands off of Hillary and her yoga pants, I'm sure. And she turned over everything else as one giant file. That was the least, the only way it could have been more user unfriendly is if it was translated into a dead language, right? Translated into a dead language. That's about it. That's how Democrats are. They don't want you to know what they're doing. They want you to know exactly what they tell you. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Anything after that is a scandal. Joe Biden, he's denied any wrongdoing. Well, that's good enough for Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell and all the other dummies over there on the left. Oh, it doesn't matter. The White House has denied it. There's not a shred of evidence. Well, what about that pile of evidence over there? It's not shredded. Well, it's, that's different. It's just a father's love for a son. That's right. Every father who loves their son is involved in overseas 6- and 7-figure wire transfers. I don't know about you. What kind of household did you grow up in that your father wasn't using his business ties to introduce you to people who would send you 6- and 7-figure wire transfers and to members of, the grandchildren? It's already a big enough question. Like, what the hell did the Bidens do that it warrants millions of dollars, tens of millions. They produce no good or service. They do provide nothing. But nobody ever goes, what does the Biden granddaughter that got 30 grand do? What does she do for that 30 grand? Anything? Exhale? Is that it? But that's cool. Nobody's looking into that. And anybody who looks into anything that Democrats do will find nothing but a muddled mess of things you won't be able to search through for years and years and years. And when you finally get through it and you find the smoking gun, you say, look at this. They'll do what the Clintons always did, what the Clintons made famous. They'll say, you're still talking about that? That's such old news. Such old news. Time is flying. We're at the halfway point already. We've got some audio from the White House to get to when we come back. The historic Karine Jean Pierre, so historic. In Washington, D.C., city councilman calling for the National Guard to step in and help with crime. You love it when politicians basically look at the camera and go, I can't do my job. I'm not quitting. Keep sending the checks, but we need somebody else to do the work. We'll be back. I don't know what that is. Anyway, welcome back to the program, Vince Coglianese program. I'm Derek Hunter, sitting in for a vacationing Vincent Coglianese. We should go by Vincent, shouldn't he? Corey, wouldn't that be better? Vincent? Hello, this is Vincent. You're speaking with Vincent. Very Pulp Fiction-y. Anyway, we've got a lot of things left to get to and not a whole lot of time to do it. It's eastbound and down. Just watch old Bandit run. I want to shift gears now to the wildly historic Karine Jean Pierre. Because as we watch Democrats gear up for the 2024 election, it's really an interesting situation they find themselves. They have the unenviable task of trying to convince people that they don't know how good they've got it. That's a tough order to put. Yeah, you think your life sucks, but your life doesn't really suck. Why? You've got it so good now. The economy is booming. And this is what politicians of both parties never really seem to understand. The economy, the economic numbers, economic growth is good. If it's not hitting people at home, around, as they always say, around the kitchen table, it doesn't matter. That's what bothers me when I see these people talking about the stock market, right? The stock market. The stock market is up. Everybody should be happy. Republicans and Democrats try and go, oh, no, I'm so great or we're so great. Our policies are so wonderful. The stock market is up. And yes, 'tis true that most people, through their 401ks or whatever, they have stocks. They don't think of themselves as being when you talk about the stock market, there's still that mentality. In your head, you see that image of the Monopoly guy twisting his mustache, maniacally laughing as he lights another Cuban cigar with a $100 bill. That's what you think of. It's Wall Street. It's the Wolf of Wall Street. It's people living like Hunter Biden lived, covered in hookers and blow. But they're all in it, so it does matter. Hey, the stock market is up, the stock market is down. Especially if you're on the verge of retiring. If you got 20 years, don't worry about it. It's going to be the dips, and that's how the rich people get richer. Is the bottom falls out for a little bit, and everybody goes sell, 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 and the rich people sit there and go, you know what? I'm going to watch the stock price crash. You know what? I'm going to buy while it's down, and then it's going to go back up, and I'm going to make money, and then everybody else goes, okay, get back in. Like, yeah. You just gave me a whole bunch of commissions and just screwed yourself out of 20%. Congratulations. But you feel good like you did something. So most people aren't active in the stock market. And so they don't think of themselves as being part of the stock market. But if you talk about the stock market as a unit of measure for economic success, you're going to lose people because of that. You're going to lose people because of that. Now, you want to talk about people and talk to people in a way that is going to matter to them? Talk about how you can't get out of a grocery store for less than $60. It doesn't matter. You're just going up there like, you know what, I need to go buy a couple of things for dinner tonight. It's going to be $60. It wasn't $60 2 years ago. But thanks to Joe Biden, it's $60, well on its way to $80. Now, when they're talking about inflation, they're talking about it as, hey, it's going to take longer for it to cost $100. So quit complaining. Like, okay, that's a tough sell right there. That's the best you got. They say you can't polish a turd, but nobody says you can't try, right? Nobody says you can't try to do that. And so they end up saying, inflation is down. Inflation is not down. Inflation is measured year over year. Things are up 12% compared to they were a year ago. And then they go, now it's another year, and they're only up 5%. You go, oh, okay. Inflation is, the rate of increase is like, they never say that. They say inflation is down. But realistically, it's 12% plus another 5% over the course of 2 years. If you think about it logically, like I say, everything Democrats argue completely falls apart. Completely falls apart. So when you are Karine Jean Pierre, who already is, how do we put this politely, challenged when it comes to speaking, thinking, doing. She's very good at being historic. Let's just focus on the positive for her. She's very good at being historic, mostly because it requires her to literally do nothing. But she is out there trying to sell Bidenomics, which is hilarious. You remember the audio from the video from, I don't know, about a month or two ago, before Bidenomics, where they actually try, you don't want your name associated with nomics unless it's a good thing. But they got nothing. So they're like, well, let's just call it Bidenomics. And then anything good, we'll say it's Bidenomics. Anything bad, we'll say, well, that's still because of the Trump administration. But anything good is Bidenomics. They're really trying to pull the Obama playbook off. If you remember the Obama administration, it was 8 years of everything is George W. Bush's fault. Everything is, we're coming out of the worst economy ever. We've rescued you from the worst economy ever. And then you go, you never really got past 2% economic growth. Well, that's because everything was terrible. We saved you. The economy has turned around. Well, the economy sucks. Well, that's because of the guy before us. Well, did you save us then from? Well, yes, we saved you. Then why are there how come these problems didn't exist when the guy before you was, in office? It's different. It's one of those rare situations where you throw a big rock into a pond, and then 6 years later you get the ripple and the splash. It's just, that's how economics works. Don't ask any questions, please. Next question. So now they're in a situation literally where they're trying to tell people, you don't know how good you've got it. You don't know how good you've got it. Why? Because the economy is growing or something, and inflation is slowing, and everything that you can't afford or couldn't afford 2 months ago, you still can't afford. It's just increased at a slower rate. So you should elect the people who screwed you over in the first place, right? If you're a parent, a new parent. By the way, you notice if you've been to a grocery store lately, there's still a baby formula shortage. It doesn't get covered because there's literally no good way to spin it. There's no good spin to put on. But go to your grocery store. There's a little bit more baby formula than there was before, but there's still not shelves full of baby formula. And a lot of places say we still have limitations on the amount of baby formula that you can buy. And if, God forbid, you're looking for like sensitive stomach baby formula or baby formula for children with allergies or special digestive issues, forget it. You can't get that. They just don't report on it because it makes Joe Biden look bad, and more importantly to them, because, they've almost given up on Joe Biden. They've almost jumped ship. It makes Secretary Mayor Pete look bad. Mr. Supply Chain, Mr. goes on vacation or goes on paternity leave for 2 months and nobody notices. That guy. He's the one who's he was the one who's like announcing, we're flying in baby formula from everywhere. His kids that him and Chasten picked up, they they never went without baby formula. I bet you they didn't even really have to go to a couple of different Piggly Wigglies in order to try to get some baby formula. I bet you at the photo ops when Secretary Mayor Pete is there welcoming to a bank of cameras the planes from Australia. It's like, oh, here comes the baby formula. See, America, we're doing it. I bet you right off the back of that plane, he's throwing a couple of cases into the trunk of the car that he uses to haul his bicycle around so he can pretend to ride it. But anyway, I'm straying. Let us get back to Karine Jean Pierre talking about how good people have it and they don't know it. And see if any of this rings true to you. Cut 2, go ahead.
Here's the thing. This is a president who has spent the last 2 years turning the economy around. You hear us talk about Bidenomics. You just mentioned how we're doing this West Coast swing, talking directly to the American people about how wages are actually going up, about how inflation is going down over a long, extended period of time, more than 12 months. That is important.
Hey, look, wages are going up. You're now rich. Well, that's absolutely true if you're talking to the one person who lives in Florida who bought that $1.5 billion Mega Millions ticket. Everybody else is kind of getting screwed. Everybody else. Inflation has gone down for the past 12 months. Wait, so we're in a period of deflation? Things are costing less as gas reapproaches $4 a gallon? Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. See, again, they argue. If you can choose the unit of measure, you'll always come out ahead. Inflation is down. No, inflation is increasing at a slower rate. But inflation has not given back what it has taken. Prices have not come down. It's still very expensive to go get a bunch of eggs. Still pretty damn expensive to go get milk. Go buy a steak. Go to the grocery store. And if you remember, or if you're a pack rat and you can just dig through your old piles of mail that you never threw away, think about what sales prices used to be for various cuts of meat. The Safeways here, they've set up, it's now $5.99. It's this, the sirloin steaks or whatever they are. I forget what they are. They're fine steaks. They're good. They're not, prime rib or anything like that, but they're pretty damn good steaks. They're like an everyday, the top shelf everyday steak. They are now $9.99 a pound, but Safeway has set the price till October or whatever it is, according to the sign in the store. They've locked the price in at $5.99 a pound, which is good because it's regular price $9.99 a pound. But 2 years ago, a good sale price on that was $3.99 a pound. We're not getting that $2 a pound back, Karine Jean Pierre, and they've locked it in until October. That's great. But what are you doing to knock it down from there? Well, the Fed is raising interest. Right, that's great. And you're doing what exactly? You're proposing spending even more money. You're sending Brinks trucks through the air over to Ukraine to dump out money like Hunter Biden at a strip club, making it rain all over Ukraine constantly. No accountability, nothing. Proposing even more spending, imposing even more regulations. Because they can propose more spending. They can't impose more spending, but they sure as hell can impose regulations. The president said, he did an interview with, I should have probably cut this audio. He did an interview with the Today Show, a very friendly interview. The Grand Canyon is the backdrop. And he's talking about, oh boy, howdy, he's done so much for the environment, for climate change, more than anybody. He's spent more money on climate. All his friends are getting filthy, filthy rich. How many of those companies do you think his degenerate son and loser brother consult for? Anybody even looking into that? Which cousin, nephew, niece, daughter, whatever, and the Biden family is rolling up into these monies, into this industries. But don't worry, you don't know how good you've got it. When your argument is, yeah, things suck, but the other people would have made it worse, you don't have a very good argument to make. It's kind of what Obama ran for on re-election, but Obama had something that Joe Biden never will. People liked him. People liked him, largely Democrats liked him because of his skin color. They always said, oh, he's so cool, he's so cool. But they really spent 8 years patting themselves on the back going, I voted for the first black guy to be president of the United States. Really? Never got to 3% economic growth. Not one single quarter. It's probably racism. This country's horribly, wildly racist. Really? Because he won election both times by a wide margin. Seems like, I don't know, that kind of undercuts your argument that the country's wildly racist. I don't think many it's a big overlap. The Venn diagram, since the vice president loves the Venn diagram of the Democrats and Klansmen, since it's just a concentric circle. I don't think the Klan's going to elect a black guy as their leader, the Grand Wizard of the Klan, like Dave Chappelle. Why? Well, because he's just super funny and cares. It's just a lot of fun to be around. Huh, okay. That'd be an interesting take. But they would never say, I think if the Klan elects a black guy as the Grand Wizard, I would begin to think that maybe the Klan isn't the organization it used to be. Democrats want to pat themselves on the back, and we elected a black guy. We voted for the black. Okay, we're not a horribly racist country then? Oh, no. We're a horribly racist country. Wildly. We're like the worst kind of racist country there ever could be. Disconnect again. They really do seem to live in disconnect land. So as these people get together and try to tell you why it is you've got it so good, no matter, despite all the evidence and everything you know, you're the one who pays your bills. Remember that. And Karine Jean Pierre, by the way, she went on a take. This is a funny clip where she tries to explain why Joe Biden is so unpopular. She can't. Again, she's terrible at her job, and she's trying to polish a turd, but she's historic. She's got that going for her. Cut 3, go ahead.
The latest CNN poll out just days ago showed that Americans are pretty sour on the state of the economy. They think it's in a downturn or getting worse. About half of respondents. The president's approval rating for his handling of the economy is at 37%, 30% on inflation specifically. From the White House perspective, why is there disparity between the good story, the narrative you think you have to tell, and how it's received by the American people?
So a couple of things, Victor. Look, as we know, polls don't show everything. They don't tell the full story, as you just stated. And we have to remember, if you look at where we were back in the fall of 2022, during the midterm elections, when the president delivered a historic midterms for Democrats, when we think about how, as a Democratic president, he delivered a victory that we hadn't seen in decades, right? And he led that messaging.
Why is the president so unpopular? Why do people think he's horrible at inflation? Well, if you look back at the midterms, the election results were historic. Okay, speaking of non sequiturs, ham sandwich. Huh? She is just terrible. Terrible at her job. If she didn't have that job, Republicans would desperately try to invent her to try and get her into that job. She's exactly what happens when you hire somebody who can't do it, like merit. Where should we list merit on the list of qualifications for the job? Nowhere. Get merit off there. That's no way. It's got to go. I realize there are 5 letters, but that's a 4-letter word to we, the Democrats.